Yeah, what's good, everybody? It's me again, your boy PT, and this is the Real Leadership Podcast, man. Once again, if you're listening to this, do me a favor. Wherever you're listening to that on radio, video, YouTube, Spotify, hit like, hit follow, hit subscribe, do all those things for me. Give your boy a little bit of love for this free information that we're giving out, man. Like this is free mentorship, free coaching, free training. I'm bringing some of my top friends onto this podcast, man, to talk about these topics. These are people who I talk to and got advice from as I'm moving through my journey as well. So the fact that they're coming on here to do this thing for free for me, man, they charge like $400,000 to talk to them for like some coffee, but nah, I'm just playing. But today though, man, this is going to be a very good conversation. I got my man Roy White on, and me and Roy, man, we've been kicking it for probably about 2 to 3 years by now, man. And when I first moved back,
Before COVID.
yeah, right. And when I first moved back to Maryland from Vegas, Roy was one of the people I came across. The story is wild on how we met. I'll talk into that a little bit in a second. But first, Roy, do me a favor, man, and just introduce yourself to everybody and give a short bio of yourself, my brother.
No problem. Roy White, originally from Kentucky. I came I came in the Air Force when I was 18. Ended up in the DC area. Kind of got stuck up here for a while. Worked government contracting my whole time, but I've owned my own company, and I fell in love with just leadership, and fall in love. Ended up getting my MBA in strategic leadership from Strayer University, the Jack Welch Institute, and in 2021 got my PMP and things like that. It's just been a journey, life, understanding how valuable life is, and being a good person. So
Hey,
that's me
man.
in a nutshell.
Hey, man, that's great. So thank you for that introduction of yourself. There's a whole lot more in there. You being shy right now. But I'll say this though, the way me and Roy met, it was crazy. So a buddy of mine thought Roy was somebody else when he saw the picture. And he reached out to Roy. And then when Roy responded back, he found out that wasn't the guy he thought he was. But like he said, man, he's an Air Force guy. He's out here and he likes helping veterans. So we were veterans, and he was like, "Hey, anything you need, man, let me know. I'm here to help." And from there, he actually introduced me to an organization called Mentoring Mentors, because he was on the board for them, I believe, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I still do work with Mentor Mentors today, right? So
Hey, Alfonso Mayo is like,
Alfonso Mayo is it, right?
right.
So it's crazy because he's going to be on the podcast. He was supposed to be on last week,
Yeah.
but then I had the family thing with my dad, so I had to unfortunately cancel that. But I'm getting him back on here. That's going to be a crazy one.
We met through a business partner and things like that. Just to tell you how crazy it is, we have the same birthday.
The same birthday.
Yeah, him and I have the same birthday. Our 1 hour lunch ended up being 4 hours. Ever since then, we do our birthday lunch together.
Okay.
And then or dinner, things like that. Sometimes we bring some kids out with us, and and just have conversation. But that guy inspired me.
Yep. Yes.
I think anybody that talks to him, like,
Yes, I agree 100%, man. Every time I talk to him, every time I've been out there to speak to his kids, man, to those kids out there, the effect that he has and his team has on those kids, and that transformation,
man,
crazy.
I was part of the board since 2016. No, I think I came on the board 2018. I left in 2022, and Dr. Smith took over and things like that, which was somebody that I introduced into the program, which I was introduced into the program by Chris Gonzalez, another great digital Marine that I worked with. And then to actually get introduced to Mayo, he was like, "I got this guy I want you to talk to." And I mean, we sat there and talked, and that became a brother,
Yeah.
you know, no matter what, he's gonna hold me accountable, you know, regardless of what I do, what I say. He's made me a better father, you know, and you don't put that all on one man, but you know, what I'm saying is just being able to interact with someone that, you know, and that's when I really met somebody that genuinely loved, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, as a friend, as a brother, things like that. So, you know, I give big shout outs to him.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna get them on there, man, and then that's gonna be a great podcast. And then eventually, I'll probably get y'all all on together as like a panel, man, and we'll just sit back and kick it. That'll be
Oh
a good
yeah,
time.
that'll be dope. Cause our conversation when he called me, we talk maybe once a month or whatever. He makes sure he checked in or I check in. And I kid you not, it's literally a 2 hour conversation. I better clear out 2 hours of time to talk to him and you know, really through him, you know, a lot of things that working out, being there for the kids, man, you know, because
Yeah,
I've been a coach for over 21 years here in the area. So, well, this area as well as down in Alabama when I first came in the military. It's been, you know, transformational. And then being able to see him do it, what he do, see what you do. So don't, you know, don't let me, you know, not give you your roses. So I do see the things you're doing in the prison system and things like that. And I know that the kids need that and need to hear that from a strong brother, you know, whether what color you are or anything like that, showing them that there is kindness, there is love, and there is appreciation and grace for who they are and things like that. We all, you know, we all fall short. You understand what I'm saying? And
yeah,
sometimes we fall detriment to ourselves and things of that nature. But you know, it's grateful that you have somebody like yourself that want to get, you know, wants to give back and takes that time because, you know, showing up is a big thing.
that's it. But I say this though, man, like, and I give you this, man. Every time I talk to you, man, you always uplifted somebody or myself. I remember talking to you, kind of one of our first conversations, and you just put it simple. You was like, "Look, PT, you're a leader, bro. Like, I know you try to say you're not, but you're a leader. So
Yeah.
like, you got to lead." And it was like, and that helped a lot, man. That's very. It inspired me to say, you know what, maybe okay, maybe I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, you get just a little bit of like maybe someone sees something in me because at first, you know, I just wanted to serve
Yeah.
and thinking like I'm serving. You're not thinking leadership. You're thinking more like I'm just being a servant and being a good steward of
But
what God put me here to be. Right?
what was Jesus? He came here to serve, but he still wasn't not to get biblical on you. But I mean, you know, it's gonna shine. And you know, I talk to many friends, regardless of you know if they still talk to me or not. You know, you still pray for them and things like that because you know that we all have our own paths and things like that. Have to deal with our journey, but one of the things that really stuck with me, you know, and how I view people and things like that was Les Brown made a comment about do you know where the most richest place in the world is?
I do. The
Where?
graveyard.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you know that stuck with me because you know you know all the potential you know my dad had all the things that you know I heard him, you know, heard about him doing and things like that. You know, I never got to see that, but the fact of the matter, you know, like you know, he never got to live that. He lived a life, but he never got to live that. You know, it wasn't from the potential, but the heart.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The heart of who you are. That I think that defines you as a leader. You know, regardless if you want to serve, you know that makes you a leader because most of the time people that don't that want people to serve them and they ain't leaders. We're gonna leave that because that can segue into something.
Man, that would skip the whole topic for the day. We talk about that, man. Like, nah, but that's why. But you know what? I love that because when I get you back on there,
Mhm.
we'll dive deeper into that, right?
Right. Yeah. You know, you know, I tend to see, you know, how we influence, you know, others, you know, things like that. You know, even if you were to look at my LinkedIn, you know, or the book I wrote, you know, I talk about one of the kids that Mayo introduced me to, Cordell. Funny story, you know. So we're getting, you know, we're talking about leadership, but you know, I want to take you into this context of people that really want leaders, want to be leaders and things like that, and people that don't. There's a certain work ethic. There's a certain way that they move. Cordell came to me and he said, "Hey, I want to get in. I want to get into IT. I want to do this. I want to do that." At the time, I owned my own company, and I said, "Look, I go to the gym at this time. I have free time here. And we'll discuss the 3 a.m. portion of the gym." But that's been going on for a while now. But I go to the gym at this time, I do this, and you can have my time during this time, and I'll talk to you and things like that. That kid showed up every day.
Mm.
Right now, I know he's doing very well. I'm proud of him. I know Mayo's proud of him. Every time I see him, it's hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm in Linux, I'm doing cybersecurity now. I mean, just to hear that, and not to knock him, but I mean the kids that I've gotten into the fire department, the kids that I've helped get into college, and things of that nature. It's a beautiful thing when I don't know if you listen to Inky, so we get
Yeah.
on the topic a lot.
Yeah.
You listen to his story, really inspired me when I read the book Empty the Bucket, and he talked about his coach. One of the things that's mentioned in leadership, and it takes me here, is the coaching aspect. We grew up with coaches that would pick us up,
Yeah.
drop us off,
Yeah.
all that stuff. You don't have that no more.
Yeah.
You'd be able to practice this time, this, that, and another. And I recognize that when I work on base, because when I worked off base, that wasn't, the criteria.
Yeah.
On base, they still had a sense of that.
Yeah, that community element, man. We lost that. I don't know what happened during that transition of, I would say probably our generation where we got so over protected, right?
Right.
But now we don't want no one talking to our kid. We don't want no one around the kid. We don't want no one taking our kid. Don't discipline my kid. Don't teach my
Yeah.
kid unless I say it's okay. And the kids are missing out. Like you just said before we started, we don't hang out on the corners no more where the lessons were learned on how to maneuver in those areas we were in.
Yeah, and right now they'll fall victim to it, because they don't pay enough attention to
Yeah.
surroundings and things like that. Me and my son have this thing about OPSEC and being able the situational awareness and things. But I say that only because being a coach, I know I've posted some of the videos and things like that on Facebook and things. You probably have seen them where I'm talking to my kids, but it's so funny because I yell but nothing I say is never negative.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's always get it back or something like that. So I get text messages all the time. Now I'm like that coach that everybody wants to play for because my kids are so amped up and so hyped, when they play. But the reason I say that is because we lost that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they see you excited, they see you into it, things like that, they're gonna work harder, they're gonna play harder. And you see that in college basketball, because we can get on that subject, but leave that alone. But we see it in so many things that we're going through, like even in the workforce,
Yeah.
you certain people that shine and things like that. Instead of trying to learn how to shine with that person or whatever as a team, is like, you know,
Yeah. And you know what? And we can stick on this, man. Like I always prefer the organic conversation over
yeah.
the scripted one, right? And
Yeah.
we'll still get into all of that, man. But just to touch on what you're saying, the one thing that I always learned when I was in the military is that people want discipline and people want to be held accountable.
Mhm.
And if you don't do that, then they don't know what to do, so they just do things,
Right,
right?
right.
And that goes into coaching, right? There's an element and a fine line between the discipline, the respect, the accountability, but having a great time and a good time.
Mhm.
Because I used to coach youth sports for a while too, and it was never same thing with my kids. And when I talk to young parents, I told them the same thing. I never yelled at my kids from a point of I was angry,
Right.
right? The yelling was to emphasize the lesson that I want them to understand from the behavior that they show.
But, also, not to cut you off, but also when you're in the middle of the game, they yelling directions that you ain't even told the kid to do.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? But they still let you run. So you're confusing it. I want them to recognize the sound of my voice. The way I coach them in practice is the same way I coach them in the game. And I told the parents to come in
Yeah.
because you're not going to see nothing but me push your kid to the greatest potential that they have. And at the end of the season, every one of the kids, you know what they're going to say? You're my favorite coach. You're my
Yep.
best coach.
Yep.
I mean, we was undefeated. We were only, we had two 12-year-olds this year, right?
Yeah.
The rest of them are 8, 9, turning 9, things like that, right? First practice, I'm gonna tell you what I did. It's funny. They were all shooting around, things like that. And, they split up the kids, gave me my kids. And I looked down at the other team. Kids was all right, bruh. So I I turned around. Sorry about that. I turned around and I said, put the basketballs up. We get ready to do defensive drills for the rest of the practice. The defensive team. I never had one play, bro. A team could have beat me. All they had to do was make me settle down in the half court offense.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it because we were so tenacious on defense. It didn't matter, yo. I wouldn't let you score.
He's like, put the ball down. I mean, I ain't gonna try to score with them. We're gonna go ahead
Yeah.
and you up.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But no, I take that into, consideration as a leader because, I make sure that they speak positivity to their teammates and things like that. And, you see the ones that start shining and leading, through that, of speaking positive and saying, hey, let's get it, things like that and building a team. And I think every kid should experience some type of sport from that aspect, because I think it gels them for real world, real life, and things of that nature, as far as being a leader, but also being able to network, because I mean, I still run into folks I played little league ball with, and just over past week, I ran into my old command chief. I played ball with, play ball with up here at Poland, man.
Yeah. Let me ask you this though. So where do you think that mind frame came from you? So you say you're from Kentucky,
Hmm.
right? So
Right.
did you have that mindset prior to the military, or was it something that kind of developed while you was in the military, or did you have mentors, coaches?
I think it was mentors. One as my first quote unquote supervisor when I came in, Chief Turner, Chief Nathan Turner. He's down at Maxwell still. No, well, he's not in anymore. Shout out to him. He's been he uh, he made a comment about always making sure everyone else is better. And I know, when we were kids and things like that, people would say stuff to us, and years down the road, he like, that's what they meant, things like that. So I think it didn't really click, I think it clicked when I started, getting into business and things like that after I got out the military. And I always kept a good relationship with everyone in the military. I mean, still have still talk to, I think, damn near everybody that I was stationed with at the Pentagon. I think
Yeah.
this, if I don't have their number in my phone or they don't call me when they come into DC, they're not living. Put it that way. It's a funny way to put it, but I mean, it's just like, Roy, have you talked to such and such? And it's just been that connected. And I wasn't there long. I was only there for like 4 years, 3 or 4 years before I went to Fort Lee. But I think that was my first sense of family.
Okay.
And everybody doing for each other. So when you got that, and then you had somebody that kind of enforced your potential, who he was. He always called me, Chief Turner, always, he was down in Maxwell, he always called me Greyhound. And, I played ball for him. I played, we played flag football, all that stuff. I said I'd never play flag football, but that's another story for another.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But I played football, flag football for him, things like that. And I mean, just how he was to everybody. It didn't matter, that if it didn't rub off on you, bruh, as a person, there's something wrong with
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And and that kind, he always made sure that everyone else is better. So when you told me that you came to serve, and you wanted to serve people,
Yeah,
that's what I see from the aspect of being a leader. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I see from the aspect of understanding leadership. The military kind of ingrained what a leader is and things like that. Yes, we make mistakes, we make bad choices. I've made bad choices. I think we all have, and things like that. You can't live by that. It's always to the next. And I've learned, valuable lessons in working and understanding what Chief Turner was telling me, but he was coaching me as well. You get what I mean?
yeah. That
Yeah, I
was
think that came from.
yeah, that was the change. The military was the change for me, man. I'm so thankful for the military. I think I had the mindset, some skill set, because I played ball in school. I was the captain for the team, right? And so I had some of that stuff, but I didn't know how to lead. I only knew how to lead from what I've seen, right? Which is what back in those days, we're yelling, we're screaming, we're like, "What are
Yeah,
you doing?" Right? We're being a little bit. There was no influence to it. It was more like the fact you failed in, right? There was really nothing in there
no substance. Yeah,
that was benefiting the person I was dealing with besides using fear or getting the rest of the team to like shun him, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like we're going to shun you because you can't do what we want you to do, or you're making us get punished. But the military, man, it definitely, and it took some time, right? Because
Right,
coming from here, right, coming from PG Prince George's County to the military, that's a thing, right?
hey, right,
It was like so it took some time, but those traits of responsibility, because they teach you responsibility early. They
right.
teach you team early. Like I was a
Mhm.
latrine queen in basic training.
I did the, I was a dust boy, man. The kind underneath the bed with the towels and we
Yeah.
clean the floors. With the floors was stripped, but they looked the best.
Nah, man, I had to clean. We had to get those toilets and showers clean, man. And I had a team. You can't bully them when you're dealing with people of the same appetite, right?
Right.
Because the military attract a certain type of person.
Right.
I've always said that, and they weed them out. Then
Yeah, around the way, yeah.
you have that mindset of a lot of alpha types or even beta types, right? I don't discount them because when pushed, they're not going to let you just push them totally either, right? So when you're coming up across that, you got to realize influence is the way to start trying to manipulate networking and building coalitions and connecting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Collaboration, because the enemy was who? The drill instructor.
And I still got my 341, bro. So bad. I used to hide from them jokers, yo.
Yeah, man. So
I got in
we,
trouble one time for fighting. Never again. He made me do push-ups and walked out the room on me, my G, and
bro,
left me in the down position. And I never messed up again. He was my enemy the whole time I was there.
I messed around, got correctional custody in tech school, bro. But
Man, bro.
that's a story for another day, man. But
uh, them
but
stories, man.
yeah, not anymore. Like those, I think statute of limitations is up, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, it was cool how we used to have to like, okay, you're better at the bed, and you're better at this. So y'all do all the shoes, man. We'll do the corners of the bed. Hey, who's gonna help me? Even though we had our roles, we would still help each other who was better with whatever.
right.
And I'm gonna tie all that in to why I wanted you here in the first place, man. Because when I met you, not only did you introduce me to that organization, but man, you are sending out invites to networking events all the time. And the powerful thing is, man, I will go to these network events, and there's what almost 100 people or so there, and
Mhm.
they're all business owners,
Right.
right? Like these are people who got companies. They're the real entrepreneurs, not the like, hey, I got a bucket and I go around walking. There's no disrespect to that. But
Yeah.
these are the ones who got the LLCs, they got the insurance, right?
Yeah.
They got employees under them working for them.
Right.
And then I went to the one where you had the owner of Mosaic, right?
Mhm.
Green, I believe, Mike Green, something like
Yeah,
that.
on my grid, yeah.
Yeah, Greg. And he's talking about what he sold that company for. That's like crazy, right? So now I'm in the room where it happened, you know? Like this is the room where it happened. Shout out to Alexander Hamilton. I love that play. Right.
Yeah,
And I'm wondering, like, why did you think that was like that was your thing? People knew Roy is the networking guy. I will call you, I still call you, right? You just be like, hey man, do you know them on the intern? He's like, hey, I know someone got an intern. Say, cool, let me reach out to him, right?
right.
And that's how I see Roy. Why and you are a leader in your own right. You has your own company, right? You was top of another company that you was working with, right? You're coaching, you're doing like you are on boards for nonprofits. Like you're the leader, entrepreneur type guy. Why do you think networking is so important across the board?
I think that we have to realize at some point you can't do it alone. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm,
Even Jesus had 12 disciples, right?
yeah.
I mean, you look at it as, I look at people as we don't know what or how that person came into your life, but I believe that in certain situations, good or bad, they taught you a lesson, right? And in that journey is still God provides your footsteps in that journey. So being a good human and understanding the value of people because, you can have $1 million and be lonely as hell,
Yeah.
right? But you can have $1 million and work with other people and make $10 million and things like that and grow. But we fall short of that, Other cultures understand that, things like that. I created a MSG. Well, worked with a couple other folks to create MSG. I'm not gonna say I'm the full creator. I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
I kind of just took it by the rim and took it, but just made everybody, pulled everybody together, which is like 108 business owners and things like that collaborate. And it was one of those things where I said that we can work together, as a people. We can, I'm a part of these other groups that's doing the same thing that we're doing over here. And I kind of be the conduit to that, because, if you don't want to be the person that changed, then nothing's going to change. I mean, if not you, then who, right? So, understanding the aspect of, networking with people that are of the same mindset, and you can tell early who's of the same mindset, things like that. Um, I through my journey, I've learned two rules. If people tell you, if enough people tell you a person's way they are, yeah, that way, bruh. We just understand that. My loyalty was a whetstone in a lot of these situations, in this networking. So having a big heart, you know, was one of the things that kind of led to it, but it was also my Achilles heel. You know what I mean? I've been able to circum that because you're able to see your network because what you put out into this world is always going to come back. It's like a boomerang, right? So what I always was told, regardless of the fact of how they treat you or how they do you, you don't, I don't have to tell my side of the story.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who I am is going as long as I continue to show up as Roy White and things like that, I don't have to because there's nothing that, somebody can tell about me to you that outside of what we've experienced together as through our friendship, through, leadership and things like that, what we've done in the military. So nobody can take that away. I know PT. Hey, that's all I know. You can't come to me and say PT did this. Hey, I don't care.
Yeah.
And there's people that will try to damage your reputation and things like that from a networking perspective because you have that shine. So you remember I always told you to be careful. I said you're a leader, but be careful, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I said? Hey, just be careful because hey, there's a Judas all over, right? And it comes to that, networking, you have to be careful of networking and trying to allow it to be a codependency or something like that. Of you being a good person, with a big heart, can often get you stabbed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm saying that from a context of, being able to have discernment over what you're networking. People that, my number two was people that say never. They'll never do you this way. They'll never, no, bruh. Those people are the main people you're never gonna get that. You're never gonna get that apology from. You're never gonna. You get what I'm saying? Tell me I'm lying though.
No, no, you're right. No, you're right.
You know, and those ones that are super religious. If you're hearing from God more than me, then about my life, why he ain't talking to me?
Like, yeah, I see you, bro. Like, what? I'm talking to you and not me. I don't know. Yeah, man.
My bad on that, but yeah,
Nah. You like you good, man. But it's funny, man. Just to double down on that, you're 100% right. Because what I found out, especially coming back home, is everyone's looking for the come up,
right.
right? So they,
Microwave.
yeah, right. So they're painting themselves as, oh man, I got something to give, and
Hmm.
they don't have nothing to give. They have stuff to take, right? They just want to take. And
Yeah,
it's like, and every time you call it, hey, can you do this? Nah, I can't. There's some level of a reason why they could never be available for you. And then
right,
after a while, you start realizing, man, I'm always stepping up to the plate, right?
right,
And it's crazy because, like you said, I don't care what they say about Roy. I know this. Roy introduced me to a people, man. Through Roy, there is people I'm still connected to today that I do business with.
right,
I asked Roy to help me with my daughter. Roy helped me with my daughter. That means more to me than anything. I don't care if Roy set the building on fire. I'd be like,
right,
not my dude. Like, right? This man, like, this is what people don't understand, right? So even when you're talking networking and collaboration, the loyalty of this stuff and those groupings are important. You
right,
helped my daughter.
right,
So that's huge because that's not helping me, right? That's me saying, hold up, baby, you want to do what? I think I got someone who might be able to help. And instead of saying, "Oh well," you like, bet, let me see what I could do, and then you did it. And then I'm like, "Hey, can you get on the podcast?" You're like, "Yeah, send me the link." Yeah, did it.
right.
So I'm with you 100%. You don't
Showing up, man.
hold up.
This lady I talk to all the time. She's an older lady. I used to go fix her computer, just whatever.
Yeah,
So, she would always say, she said, baby, she said, one thing about you, she said, you're gonna live a good life. I said, why is that? She said, you always show up. And I said, but I realized that I have to show up for the right people. And it goes back to what you said. Because David Banner, I know you've probably seen the podcast where he was talking about, but I got to get on this one. But he said, you can't keep being Jesus to people and wondering why you're on the cross. And man, that stuff, bro, you know, that was a punch, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Just to have that conversation, just to have that thought process and the journey that I've been on, on my own and the journey I've had, with my family and things like that. It hit hard, bro. Like I'm always trying to be there, for everybody else, but then you recognize who to be there for. You understand what I'm saying? The people that are going to appreciate, people like you're giving me my flowers for that. I'm not asking for it. And I wouldn't care if you did or didn't, but it was one of those things like, you acknowledge that, hey, he helped me out with this, and this.
yeah,
And what I learned, in a lot of processes is, when you get in that quicksand by yourself, bruh, there's only a certain amount of people that's gonna you didn't know, you just reach out. You understand
yeah,
what I'm saying? Hey, bro, you all right? Hey, we need to get together soon. Those type of things, you build that type of loyalty, and friendship and partnership in that. And that's where build bonds where you can build things, together. You can go after things together because then there's a trust in the struggle, and it's not connecting through, like what we do wrong as our culture is we try to connect through trauma, how somebody treated them or how somebody did this or whatever, rather than connecting from a place of genuine love and intent. And,
yeah,
even when I connect you, I connect you and I tell you why y'all need to connect. This is why y'all need to connect, talk, this, that, and another. I don't need to be on the call at that point. because my name is good with you, my name is good with him. I'm telling you all what y'all need to talk about and how y'all can influence each other. I don't have to be a part of that.
Yeah. And you do that so well, man. I've seen you everywhere from talking to Westmore, right? Helping that campaign to so it's that is one of the things, man. And I'm trying not to get too coachy here or preachy, right?
Right,
Well, our people, you're right. We do connect through some level of trauma, right? We do
right.
like to relate ourselves back to. I don't know when the last person I ran across who was proud to be from like, nah, bro, I'm from the estates.
Yeah,
Nah,
yeah,
bro, I come from like 4 acres with horses,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
6
yeah.
bathrooms, homie. Right now, we all want to come from the worst place on the planet, right?
Right, right, yeah, bro. Don't even get me started on
Because it brings us some level of I don't know,
validity, I guess,
credibility.
man. I don't know. Like, hey, some people I be sitting there listening to, and you just see the way they move, and I'm like, bro, you could take the piss in the hallways, the crackheads, and
Give
all
me the
that. You
Picasso.
can have that, man. I don't want it. Like I didn't want it growing up. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you can have that. You won't sit there and be justified by that, bro. Like, really?
I don't get it either, man.
I just seen some of my friends get killed, and like, really, you
You
really
want
want
that?
that?
You think there's honor in that?
Yeah,
Right? And then they bring that same mentality to business, and then they wanna be coaches, or they wanna be influencers, or they wanna be mentoring people, and it's like, you don't have the right mindset. You have like, there was one time I told people, "Man, you haven't done any self-development since high school, and you 50."
man. It said that most men die at the age of 24.
Yeah. It used to be 21.
Yeah, but I ain't not even talking about physically.
No. Education, self-development.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, especially, when you start to look at, people that, had safety nets and things
Yeah.
like that. When you actually really hit a struggle or hit something hard, and funny thing is Mayo just hit me up. But when you
Tell
hit,
them you on the podcast, man. Tell 'em I
yeah,
been
yeah.
down.
No, it's when you're in a struggle and you figure out where you're going with something, mentally and things like that, you find out that a lot of those people that, you thought was going to be there aren't going to be there. And, if you look at my network, 10 years ago or 5 years ago, it
Yeah.
probably don't look nothing like, the people that I'm around. But, I can tell you right now that I am around genuine people. They love the benefit of me. They love being around me. And it doesn't it has no color context or anything like that. Going from one of my friends to reach out and just say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm thinking of you." We checking in. How hard is that? So, I was watching a video, and I don't want to, berate this too far, because I know we're coming up on time.
Nah,
But
go ahead, go ahead.
one of the things that guy was talking about is, when you call that person in your network, how do they answer, or do they answer? Because just like you said, there's a lot of people that want that microwave and things like that. So if you're not bringing nothing to the table, they don't really want to talk to you, in that context. But being able to have leverage to be at that table,
Yeah.
that's the significance, and you have to know that you belong and what you bring is valuable. This is a lot of times we as African American men have to sit at the table and bare our teeth to listen to the snickers and the jokes that are very disrespectful, what I mean, in corporate America. And to have friends that will stick up for it, like stand out, like, yo, I didn't like that. You understand what I'm saying? And and not be a part of the majority. Because if we speak out, I'm the angry black man, things
Yeah.
like that. So, significantly recognizing, how to be to network in a context of being a good genuine person and not doing it for something in return. That's when you get your return.
Yeah.
People don't recognize that. Like, you
Man,
don't get your return by expecting a return.
it's crazy you say that, man, because I was just coaching on that not too long ago. And yeah, we might be off script, but I'm good with it. I like this conversation, man,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And we'll tie it all back in because I think all of it does tie back in, right? But it's like doing things. So, someone called me and they were upset because, like, man, I did this thing for someone and I didn't get the response that I thought I was going to get.
Hmm.
And what I had to tell them is because you're doing it for them, right? If you want to do good for someone, you do it for you because you want to do it.
Right.
The response to that is irrelevant, right? You're doing it because you don't know what you can't control someone else's reasoning for how they respond to it or what
Right.
they're going through or whatever. So now you're like, well, I'll never do it again. Well, they did not appreciate it. They just didn't appreciate the way you thought it was going to be in your mind.
Right.
Right. So you see that a lot in marriages where it's like, oh, I did this thing thinking my wife was going to do this. So therefore, right.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you got to do for your spouse because you want to do for your spouse. That's a you thing, right?
Right.
And it's the same thing when you get into this collaboration around your network. And I'm with you, right? The network that I had ain't the same ones that I have today.
Right.
And I'm able to compartmentalize them now. So I'm like, oh, yeah, I know why you're calling, right? I know why you're calling.
Well, they always like, why you deleting that? Why you ain't answering that? Oh, I know why they
Yeah,
calling.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know why he calling, right? Like, and then there's other person you like, oh, okay, the ones that send you the text, like, man, uh, just thinking of you, bro, or like, hey, you good? Like just little things like that, man, or just running in and asking for favors. It's cool to ask for favors when it's mutual,
Right.
right? Like it's the reciprocity of the element. It ain't that you can't ask me, but it's like I can't ask you nothing, like and you can't give what you don't have. So I find a lot of people asking me to help them with businesses or this or that, which I'm willing to do. But then sometimes they want you to do it.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
problem.
bro. No.
I'm giving you
So
the knowledge.
I didn't learn my lesson with all that,
He's like,
no,
nah.
no.
He's like, I ain't even over that no more.
I ain't even going there with you. I'll give you advice, well,
Yeah,
my perspective. I don't even give advice no more because,
yeah,
you're not gonna come back to me and say, well, what you told me to do didn't work, bro. Because your journey and my journey and your passion and my passion ain't the same. And I think we get lost in that context as well because um I heard a comment about standard and expectation. So I'm about to take you somewhere, but this is in context of what we're talking about. So you have a standard of how you do things, how you live your life, how you move, and things of that nature. Right? But there's an expectation out of that standard. That you're gonna live the way you want to live. You work hard. That's your standard. This, that, and another. You give your best. So what happens is we put the expectation before the standard, right? You see where I'm going here? You put, you expect a certain thing before you even have a standard to it. You ain't even done it. You
you
understand?
ain't done nothing yet.
Oh, you ain't done that. So hey, yo, you want to have a baby shower? Ain't no baby yet, yo. Like you only got a girlfriend. And that's where, and I mean, that's where you find yourself, like we could laugh, uh,
Yeah,
stories for days, but when you start to peel back that onion, everybody got a great idea. You know, Jay-Z talked about it, talking about going home and things like that. I don't, continually, I lived in Kentucky and Florida growing up between, my mom's house in Kentucky, but, genuinely, you don't grow up with the mindset of everything I got is like glitter and gold, like we had some humility to it, right? But nowadays when you start to peel back that onion, hey, yo, you finding stuff under the cabinets. Hey, you got dead roaches under the sink, bruh. Hey, the house look beautiful. They want you to take your shoes off when you come in, but when you turn that corner, you getting stuck gummies
you,
and
you
all.
move that. You move that couch sofa pillow. You got all those.
Hey man, I mean, but people sit there and tell you that their business is, top notch, and I'm not judging. I want to see everybody succeed, but then you kind of get yourself into networking and bringing, another problem that I had was, in networking is, connecting people, and you have to understand that they're not always going to gel.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, and you can't get emotionally attached to that. It's like, hey, well, he has what you need, you have what he needs. Da, da. If y'all don't, want to work together, that's on y'all. Like, move on to the next. I just put you in the same room with the right person. I have no problem speaking up for the right, speaking up for people that's not in the room or about things that,
Yeah,
if I really care for you. I've done it for the wrong people at times as well. But you can go there, but
yeah.
it's just one
That's
of
the
those
challenge,
things.
right?
I could go for days, networking and how we encapsulate that as people, as a culture, that we kind of destroy ourselves. It's like self-sabotage because you can overanalyze. I mean, we overanalyze everything. Like even talking to people, man, you'd be like, how did you get how did you get that from that? Like what I mean, I know you've been sitting there talking to people and be like, what word did
Yeah, I
they
don't, I
like?
don't. Do I? Okay, let me talk again. Like, you
Nah, so I have this thing, man, where I've been reading this book. I think her name is Dr. Nika Green or whatever, called Garden Within. And in there, it talks about, being able to talk to your garden, right? And accountability for your garden, because you could grow up around weeds, but then you could have the most beautiful garden ever seen, right? But it depends on how you speak to your garden. And I'm not talking about, you fertilize your garden. And what I mean by that is networking, having the right people in your garden, having the right flowers. I didn't know all this until I had a house, but you had to make sure that certain flowers can be with certain flowers because they can't grow together and things like that, or they would kill each other, or some flowers would take over your garden, and things like that. So you had to be vigilant of that. One of the things that I recognized was that, how you network and how you treat the people around you is how you fertilize your garden. That's how your roots spread. That's how you get stronger at the base and things like that. Because when, you think about it, there's flowers that make it through wind and things like that. But how do flowers and things like that make it through wind? A tree will fall over if its roots aren't strong, right?
yeah, yeah,
Well, who's fertilizing your roots, bro?
yeah. That's deep, right?
Right.
Sometimes, most of the time, it's the wrong people,
Yeah, and you got weeds, you know?
and you think they're flowers. You think
Yeah,
they're
and
that new grass.
yeah, you gotta get rid of it. Some people are vines, dandelions, whatever you want to call it. And you have to deal with it, from that aspect. But being able to know, what's in your garden, regardless of how they are, if you fertilize it right, they'll leave you.
Yeah.
You just don't be too loyal to it. You understand what I'm saying?
And see, that's why I wanted you to come on, because I knew this would be real conversation about networking, right?
Right.
Not that, and that's what I want to hear, man. Not that nonsense of like, yes, networking and it does this and this. We could build together, right? Like,
Right.
but no, like the ins and out of this thing, and what the hurdles are to be cautious of, right?
Mhm.
Because in the beginning, and like I said, there's always tiers to this leadership
Right.
ladder that never ends, right? It just
Right.
keeps going. But as you get older and you experience more, you get to that next tier. So someone right now, if you're 20, you might be hearing people say, "Man, young brother or young sister, you need a network." And they're like,
Right.
"Oh, okay, well, I'm gonna jump out here and network with everybody, right?" And then they wonder why they working or why they're tired, or if they have something to give, people are utilizing them to do that thing, but there's nothing in return for them, right? And they're
And
like, "Man,
and you
networking sucks."
but the right people will allow you to jump in the journey with them.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And just like taking back to Cordell, things like that, he came in and worked with, my help desk at the time and things like that. He did a lot of he just shadowed. He didn't, do anything, but he took his time, time out of his day to shadow, and learn. Now he's starting his own business and doing great things in life. And I commend people on the fact of the matter that, hey, what is the use of me having the knowledge to do something or know something and I can't pass it on to you? I mean, we do too much gatekeeping, as they call it, right? And I wondered why, I ended up going to a conference, I mean, an industry, meeting one time, and I was like, why not a lot of, but the ones that was there kind of stuck to themselves and things like that. You start to recognize that, that like, they don't want you to be a part of the for
Yeah.
Nathan. You have to recognize that. And like I said, it takes you back, networking is 100% discernment, especially as you on your journey, with God and everything else you do, bro.
Man, there's nothing more frustrating. Didn't mean to cut you off, bro,
No,
but there's nothing more frustrating when you go to a network event and they're only networking with the people they already know,
yeah,
right? Like I'm like,
yeah,
so, but I ask you this then, right? So if I am a young person and I am hearing, or young whoever, I'm a person, right?
mhm,
And I'm hearing, man, okay, networking, but I don't know where to start,
right.
right? Where would you? What is your recommendation for where they should look to start that networking journey?
Well, I mean, you recognize that a lot of people post, things of where they're going to be at, things like that, in the different industries, whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah,
From music to, government contracting to basketball. I pretty feel like, I feel like, it's not as hard as it was when we were coming up without social media. Thank God we didn't have that. But it wasn't as hard, as we were growing up. We didn't have connected access and and knowing where people are and things like that. But then being able to relate and things like that, not from an aspect of, I'm following you or I'm networking with you for this reason, because, you know, but being able to be like, hey, how can I help you? Like, how you get there. Like I said, if you expect something out of it, you're probably not going to get it. If you respect the return, you're not going to get it. But if you do it on this without a return, or not respecting, expecting a return, you normally get something back out of it. And, and that's by God's grace. And I think that's really, the positive aspect of it is being able to give and understand why you're giving. You understand what I'm saying?
yeah,
And I think that a lot of people get out of context of giving to seeing where they can get before they give. Goes back
got
to,
expectations before they right before you even done the work. Yeah,
I'm not preaching or nothing, my bad.
nah, brother. Like, hey, no, preach. Because I tell everybody I'm trying not to preach today. They be like, preach, and I'm like, all right, well, let's go.
But walking into, trying to network, in a certain industry and things like that, you want to align yourself with people that are like-minded like you. And you're going to be able to tell who's like-minded, things like that, because a lot of times, I'll put it in front of you and I know whether or not I'm going to deal with you or not. You say you want to do something, things like that, just like you said in the beginning of our conversation when we met. Like, yo, you said you wanted to do this. Hey, I'm going to introduce you to people that I know that do this, because I know that maybe you bring something to the table that I don't. Maybe, and that's the mindset that we have to have, rather than I know everything because I've done it. You might be missing out on a new way to do things or a new way to connect to things, and and stuff like that. I got many friends that email me and text me and tell me about their business leads and things like that. Until I start to see something, I don't get behind. I'll be like, all right, well, show me a business plan, da da da. Because you don't want people to waste your time because you know something that they don't know, or they feel like they can get something out of you, microwave, things like that. And it really it hurts the motion of, and I think we got away from it in COVID, of the communication and being able to be in person and having interpersonal conversation.
Yeah, experience that energy amongst people that's more than just seeing each other on camera, right?
Right, right.
Yeah,
And and a lot of times people don't get on camera, but I do feel like in the context of being a leader and being that person to network, or however, you consider yourself. You could just, you could be a conduit to people. You get what I'm saying? You could be the plug, as they call it.
Yeah.
But, the plug has its benefits. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's gotten me to, concerts. It's gotten me to, even in the business realm, you understand what I'm saying? Like, I didn't get anything out of it, initially, but it was like, hey, one of our friends was like, yo, we're going to this concert. We got a booth. Come on, you pay for it, this, that, and another. Thank you. And those type of things. Then you start, interacting and things like that, you really realize that I only connect, really strong with military folks anyway. But, there's exceptions, to people in my network, but a lot of people in my network are military, from the mindset of, it's a love there, but, understanding that, we're all in the same struggle, same fight to get there. It doesn't matter. You could have been marching, in basic training. There was a person that was in security forces, or the person there was a person in HR, there was a person in admin. You don't know who you was marching beside, but you was willing to fight and die for them people.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's deep, man. I'm a end it there because I'm gonna be a good steward of time. Right. And see what I bring, yeah, see, this is where I trick everybody. I get you on, then I cut you off, I'm like, cause you gotta come back. You know, we gonna get you back for the pod, and we're gonna talk more, man, because like it's a great conversation, man. This was the initial topic I wanted to talk with you, and I think you dropped a lot of good jewels there, and I hope that people picked it up. They might have to hear it again, right?
I got a country accent, so you know how that go, man.
But sometimes it's just a mind frame and being ready to take that information in and hearing it, saying, "Oh, that wasn't what I thought before." Well, hold on, let me hear this again. Oh, okay, that makes some sense,
Right.
right? But I will do this, man. There's one question I ask every guest before we get off,
Yeah.
and here's the question, man. You have the chance to talk to the entire world, right? The Pope just gave a message, right? And then he turned to you and he was like,
Loaded, bruh.
"Roy," he was like, "Roy, close us out. What advice would you give to the entire world? Go. What advice do you got for every?"
I think, being a good human, bro. You don't know what people are going through and things like that. It's a crazy thing. Just to give you a quick background, I go to the gym early in the morning, right? And like 4 o'clock in the morning, right? 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. The funny thing about it is everybody's in there for a reason. And what I say by that is, everybody's in there. You don't see many people get into the interactions you would see at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, anytime or anything like that. It's, people actually, I talked to a good friend of mine. He was like, yo, you just got to be a good human, because you never know what a person's going through. And that hello could be, or that, how you doing, or, you following through, or something like that could be the best thing that ever happened to a person. Could change their life. And I think that, we need more of that, rather than trying to tear each other down, just because you don't like a person, or, or their beliefs, or their political, or being a crip of blood in their political blue. But I, just being able to be, who you are at that moment. I don't care, about your sexuality, your job, your you put your pants on just like me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yo, you were in a meeting, at the table with the president, this, that, and that. Yes. I'm not bragging on myself, but I didn't, I wasn't taking pictures and things like that. It was one of those things, mentally, like, they put their pants on just like me, and that's how we have to look at each other. Like, you going through things that you may not even talk to me about, and I go through things that I may not talk to you about, but there's a common mutual respect that we have amongst each other. And I think we lost that, and I wish that the world would bring that back, because we don't have to treat each other the way we do and things like that, but we do it.
Man, that's good stuff. That's good stuff, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate you.
Hmm.
I appreciate you coming on here and dropping these jewels and this knowledge, man. We're going to get you back on here. I will ask you this: do you want people following you, man? Do you ever
I
follow?
mean, hey, I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't, that I don't get on all the other social media things. But no,
I knew you was gonna say that, man.
yeah, hey, nope, nope, nope. Hey, you can follow me on LinkedIn, things like that. More so the professional side, things of that nature. I don't let a lot of people into my personal world, with other social media and things like that. I feel like that's for me and my friends, especially, with the fact of the matter that we don't really connect. Although I got like 5,000 friends that I don't, and, a lot of them are multiple accounts for aunties and things like that, but don't get me on that joke. I got a couple family members, about 13 accounts and stuff. I just literally delete them. I gotta tell them happy birthday 14 times, man.
Lordy, yeah, I hate the ones that keep coming in, but they do
Yeah,
a count every month. I'm like, who
yeah.
you had them from, bro? Like,
Yeah, and, you don't forget your password. You ain't a good steward of your password. So ain't nothing you coming to me about business wise if you need to talk about till you get your membership.
yeah. Hey, like I tell everybody, I see you, bro. So before you come talk to me, just remember I see you.
Yeah.
But nah, man, thanks again, man. Hey, for everyone, once again, if you enjoy what you listen to, you taking anything from it, man, share it with at least 2 of your friends or family. Subscribe, like, do all those good things. Show this love, show the support, man. Boy, once again, thank you, my brother. I'm gonna get you back on here.
I
And
want one of them hats too, bro. You make
huh?
one of them hats too.
Man, the PT hat, man. Like people be looking at that, like, is that the Steeler joint? Nah, it's my initials, right?
Hey, I'm messing with you, man. Nah, it's dope. That's dope, man. Yeah, no problem, man. I tell you to always be there to support you. I thank you for your service. Thank you for, what you're doing, in the community and things like that. You keep serving, you keep leading, keep influencing, and I'll keep connecting you in any way I can and speaking great about you in rooms that you're not in. I think that's what we fall short of. I look forward to the next time and thank you.
Yes, sir. And that's it. Stay real. Peace.
I have to go.